Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Towns. In the previous episode we set up the oil town of Frackham, which should be handling all of our oil needs for a good long while. We'll have it being mined and pumped and being refined, and everything will be produced and stored there, which is excellent. We now have plastic and sulfur, so we're actually making some decent progress towards blue sign stuff, and we will continue with that with our next towns that we make. So I'm going to start today's episode by grabbing a bunch of stone and also concrete, crafting some rails and stuff because there's always more rail stuff to build. At some point I do intend to make somewhere that assembles rails, because obviously in a game like this rails are in quite high demand, and I could assemble them myself, but sometimes it's not in the spirit of the thing really. To just make it all myself. The point of this game is to make factories, so we'll make a factory for rails and things like that. But anyway, in the previous episode I set up a bunch of test articles up on this bit of rail here for different arrangements of stone and concrete under the rails, and I put it to the viewers to vote on how it should be arranged, and the votes are in. They've been counted. It was a little bit complicated. I should have just set up a straw poll. I sort of forgot about it at the time that the episode went up, and then so many comments, so many suggestions, lots of votes for all of the different arrangements I came up with, and plenty of suggestions for other arrangements as well. One thing that I really didn't do a good job of sort of communicating was that there were the way that the rails would be arranged and the way that stations would be arranged would probably be different. Though plenty of people just went for that anyway, and came up with a suggestion for the rails and a suggestion for the stations. And it basically came down to an argument between, well, not an argument, just like very similar levels of votes for numbers 1 and 3 and numbers 2 and 4. And they basically went hand in hand because of the way they worked out. And in the end, 1 and 3 won. Only just, though, it was very close. 2 and 4 was it had a lot of support behind it. And of course, as soon as I actually recorded the gameplay of this episode, a bunch more people voted for 4 as one to be used, which sort of ruined it a bit. So I think it's very close to even, but in the end I decided to go for 1 and 3. Part of the reason for it is that doing diagonals and corners is a little bit easier with this, as you'll see later, because you've got a little more sort of room to maneuver. And also with 2 and 4, because the stone was only under the rails themselves, you couldn't actually see it most of the time, which sort of ruined the entire point of it. You could only really tell it was there on the corners where it became a bit messy. So you've seen me there putting it in the sort of basic stuff. Also, I decided to get rid of this road here, but I accidentally placed an 8x8 square of stone of concrete instead. But I get that cleared and then run along clearing away the road. And the reason being that because there is stone underneath and on either side of all the rails, it would connect up with this road here. And I don't like the way that I imagine that would look. It would just end up being a huge tract of stone that has everything on it. So what I've decided to do is remove these, and I'm going to replace them with concrete roads, and I'm going to just sort of try and make that work. I'm also going to move them a little bit further away from the rail so there is less chance of hitting trains. It'll probably still happen at some point. At some point there will be some sort of car and train collision, and it will be terrible and also possibly hilarious, and it will also possibly kill me. But we're going to switch to concrete. That does mean the diagonals will not be as nice, because the reason I was using stone was because it has good diagonals, and it just looks a lot smoother. So we will have lots of jaggedy bits. I'll see what I can do with sort of fixing those. Also, you can sort of see where I just removed that road. The terrain now looks a little bit sort of repetitive and a bit rubbishy. The reason being that when you put down flooring, it modifies the terrain around it and under it. Meaning that if you then take it away again, the terrain is really featureless and flat and repetitive, which is a shame. I hope that gets fixed in future, because it makes it very obvious where you put any flooring previously, and it just it looks very artificial, which is not what you usually get with the rest of the terrain. I very much like the variation in the terrain. It's very sort of natural looking. But when it suddenly becomes all repetitive, the illusion is shattered. But yes, we're going to put in our we're going to sort of work out the specifics of our station, because we've got the platforms. They're 2 wide, and on the outside I'm going to probably have them 4 wide. On the inside they have to be 2 wide, to be 1 square away from the rails themselves. Down the very middle line there isn't going to be anything in the way of platforms. I've decided pretty much, because it doesn't make any sense. No trains will actually be stopping there. They'll just be moving through. So there are platforms around anywhere where trains actually stop and where unloading can occur, or indeed loading. and then everywhere else will probably be blank. But there are sort of transition phases between the rails and the station, which I've decided to fill in with a bit of sort of diagonal stone. I very nearly got hit by that train there. I don't know if you spotted it, it was quite quick, but that was very, very close. It practically gave me a shave, that one. I do have to be very careful about where I stand. Even though there is only one train running on the system, it's running on the system that I'm working on, and that means that there is every chance of it hitting me one day. Anyway, we've put in what we can. We keep using up all the stone we have, so I go to retrieve some of it. I think actually we'll get this stuff from the main base here, because I'm clearing this all away. In future towns I will leave the flooring in place, but for this one, because it's not a proper town, I'm going to sort of erase it from existence, I think. And this is just going to be an empty patch of ground. The only difference being that there will be the dried, cracked earth here. And I've now realised what it is. It's not actually terrain glitch, like related to the whole water thing. I've been reminded that there is actually something of a sort of pollution, like ground pollution system, sort of in place. It's a precursor to what is going to be coming in, I think, not like either update 13 or 14, where pollution starts to actually affect how the ground looks. As it is right now, if you have flooring on a particular spot for too long, then the ground will sort of dry up and become a bit more sort of uninhabitable sort of thing. I mean, the desert's fairly uninhabitable anyway, but it becomes like even worse desert, and gets all cracked and stuff. I don't know if it fades away again. I guess we'll find out in like episode 20, when cause it seems like it's a 3-hour thing. Because some of the stone that I've set up there has caused it, but some of the stuff that was also set up very early on hasn't. So it seems like it's something like a 3-hour timer before the ground goes weird. So it may be a 3-hour timer before it goes good again, I'm not really sure. But anyway, we've gathered a bunch more stone, both from the floor in the main base and also from our storage over in Colbury. So now we're going to come back and put in some walls. I'm going to surround the whole thing and have it bristling with guns. As per the usual thing. The only thing is that I'm using up so much stone on the rails here that there is now very little in supply, which is part of the reason that I got it from the main base, because I'm sort of taking everything that the stone production in Colbury has to offer as well. So we're going to be a bit short on stone for a while. We may need to set up some more mining or some more smelting or something. But yeah, it's interesting. We may actually start to have like a shortage of stone, considering how much we're using. Though we don't want to use too much, because there is the problem of it not absorbing pollution like normal ground does. And so like the more stone we put in, the more pollution there will be, the more angry the biters get. So I'm not going to go completely crazy. I'm going to probably floor all of the outposts. All the I keep calling them outposts because I'm so used to calling them that from Railworld. All of the towns and all the rails, and that leaves plenty left. It's like 10%, if that, of the ground. So that should be fine. But it still has an effect. That is 10% more pollution reaching the biters. Anyway, I'm trying to work out how to sort of do these transitions here, because I had a nice diagonal line with the stone, but then I decided that I wanted everything inside the walls to be floored, meaning that I would have to put concrete like right up to the edges. But because it's diagonal, it's sort of awkward and it's annoying, and I'm trying to come up with different arrangements. I try like having like 2 squares and then 3 squares, and then I go back to the 6 that are there, and then I'm like moving it up and down by 1 square to see how that changes, how it looks. The ultimate answer is that it's always going to look a little bit messy, I think. We just have to deal with it. Either do it or don't do it, and you know, I can't really complain. Yes, we're going to put in our guns. Plenty on the east wall, because that is where a lot of the attack's going to be going on. The area just behind this, the line of 4 turrets that you can just see at the edge, was at one point the most attacked point in everything we had. So it's entirely possible that can happen again, which means we want to keep the east wall very well defended. Though saying that, I've just got rid of all of the walls over on the old 4 turret defensive line, because I'm trying to get all of this finished, and I don't quite have enough walls to do it all. I also have to steal a bit off this 1 turret here, though it doesn't cover a very damaged power pole that I can then fix. And then we can fully encase Frackham in the in walls and guns and everything. Though I've been a little bit, I've not given myself much room to maneuver with the north wall, because I like to have a 3 wide space between anything else in the wall, so that I can fit in the turrets, and then also a gap in front of the turrets so that biters can't reach over the wall and blow them up. But I decided to break that rule with this. Well, I break the rule with the turret positioning because I've broken the rule with the wall positioning. And then it's just a job of putting in all of the remaining ammo. I end up running out because there's just so many guns on this wall. It's actually quite a large outpost, particularly because this is a little bit sticking out for the oil, and it does extend sort of a bit beyond the station in a direction. It's also quite wide, so I put 25 ammo in each of them, which means I end up running out, so I have to hop back to the main base and resupply. But I can't take my car because I've gone and walled it inside. I didn't really think about it. I went and parked in the middle of the base and then built a wall around the base. So I'm crafting some gates, but I couldn't put them in immediately because I was also crafting a bunch of turrets to keep up the supply and finish getting all these filled in. So I'll make a little 4-wide gate, and then we're going to start putting in our roads. And I've decided I'm going to have them, I think, 6 away from the rails. I think that's the distance. It might be 7. I'm not really sure. And that allows me to run alongside any stations without having to sort of swerve around them and things like that. So I'm trying to work out a corner here. I start with just like a straight right angle, then turn it diagonal, and then start trying to make a nice curve out of it. Drawing on my long past experience of trying to make circles in Minecraft. It stays with you. And yeah, so I've made a decent looking curve there. It's a bit sharp. I probably want to put in a bigger one really, but it's something, and it doesn't look too terrible. So that's all right. And that is something that you sort of miss out on with the stone. I mean, you could still do like curved roads with the stone, but it seems less point when you can easily get away with doing the diagonals. But yes, anyway, we've got a bit more concrete, and I think so we don't have any more stone handy, but we have the concrete handy to do a little bit more with these joints here with the stone. So we arrange it, we work out, we sort of decide on our final design for that, and then put in what concrete we can. So there's a little bit of a gap. It sort of doesn't turn up well because half of the square is already filled in by gravel, and the other half is filled in by a sort of the grey edging that the concrete tiles do have. So it's not terrible, but I still want to just put it in anyway, for I guess neatness and symmetry and stuff, if nothing else. I have a go at putting down flooring as I drive, though I quickly run out of it before I can do too much damage. But I was swerving around quite a bit. It seems like whenever I'm trying to stay steady, I swerve around all over the place. When I'm just happily driving somewhere, I manage to get perfectly lined up and fine. And anyway, once again, resupplying on plenty of stone and concrete. The concrete supply is sort of running out of stone because I'm sort of stealing. So I think it's still got like 6 stacks of it or something in there. So that is fine. That provides us with, I guess, 12 stacks of concrete. So I probably shouldn't worry about it too much. I keep putting like a full wooden chest worth of stone in it so that it's definitely fine, but that is like 2 full wooden chests of concrete at the end of the day. But anyway, I'm now having a good look at the map while sat in my car, so you get to listen to the engine noise being all annoying and high-pitched and whiny. But what I'm doing is deciding on where I'm going to put my advanced circuit town. That's what I've decided to build next. I'm just going to ignore the need for copper and iron towns right now because Chipton can provide in that respect for a short time. We will set up the towns once things are up and running, but I want to get the blue science going so that we've got something for our towns to properly do, rather than just like supply coal for the radars to run and things like that. I mean, it is good having the pollution so like weak at the moment and having there be so little trouble with biters. I don't think we've had an attack in like 2 episodes now or something. I think that like the last attack that happened was like a single medium biter, and it was absolutely ages ago. So that is brilliant, and it's helped that we've been able to deal with some of the bases using the turret creep method. I'm just going to have to resign myself to having to use that, I think, because until we get blue signs, there is not much else we can really do about it. But anyway, I've picked these 2 copper deposits here for the advanced circuit base, the reason being that advanced circuits need plastic circuits and copper. So the circuits and the plastic can be supplied by the 2 sort of production bases the 2 intermediate production bases we already have, and then it can supply its own copper until that runs out. Though there is plenty there, maybe that could supply the copper instead. It could be a copper town for a while. It is all a bit awkward. There's just too much stuff. I never thought I'd be complaining about this so much in Factorio, but right now there are too many deposits and there's too much in the deposits, and it's annoying, and I might just like edit it out at some point between some episodes because there's just too much. And I want to build more towns. I want reason to build more towns. But anyway, we are doing a bit of turret creeping on the last base that is within pollution range. Though saying that, it's really not been bothering us. Funnily enough, though, the moment I arrived in my car, they started gathering an attack force, so I quickly dealt with that. And now we're going to deal with the worms. There are 2 big worms here. 2 small worms and 1 base. Because there's so little in the way of bases, it's fairly... you can basically just focus on the worms. And I've got my strategy for it. Put a turret in range so it starts just shooting that endlessly. Repair it, and then in the time between it, you repairing it and it getting blown up again, you can build the remaining turrets to blow up the worm. And then we'll move up and do the next one. Trouble's gonna... we're gonna have some trouble when we get to like having to attack 2 worms at once. Hopefully that will not happen until after we've got like I don't know, just better armor, power armor. If we could get power armor, then I'd be happy to deal with worms. I think that would make it a lot easier. In fact, tanks. I don't know why I didn't just say that. Tanks are the clear solution to this because they have longer range than all the worms, and they can stay outside of the biter aggro range if they're careful, and just easily snipe them all out. That is what we want ultimately. And it's not too far off. A bit of blue science, and then we just need to make electric engines. We have the capability, I think, of making those. Maybe we'll see. But we'll first things first. I guess we'll take it one step at a time. And our next job is to sort out advanced circuits. So I'm just sort of arranging the rails here. This is important. I need to work out sort of where the rails are going to be going from here. So there's going to be something going to the north, but it's going to quickly veer off and start going northeast. To reach that iron deposit up there. Like using that iron deposit is probably in the fairly distant future. I don't know, maybe we'll set up steel production or something. And we also want to have a line going off to the west because there are some iron deposits over there. We could just go up to them from Colbury, but it's good to have sort of alternative lines that can be taken. Though that can also lead to all sorts of issues with trains not taking the route you expect them to, and stuff like that. Though with us having stations having like north and south names and east and west names, that does help to prevent any sort of accidents where a train arrives in the wrong station of the town. Anyway, I'm working on this junction here. It's the usual T-junction, but I've decided to rearrange it to make the lines look a bit better, and I remember why I don't have the lines looking like that, and the reason is the positioning of the rail signals. Because you can't position them on the insides of tracks, and because the tracks immediately then meet after turning in, the signals have to be placed on straight lines before the curves. But because of the way that it works, they don't work on like the straight lines immediately after junctions. I'll be honest, I don't know why, because you could easily set them to not have that problem. They are clearly on the like one side of that junction where one side goes straight before curving in and the other side just curves out. There is a clear separation between those 2 rails, but for some reason you have to put the signals beyond that part of the junction for them to act, for them to understand what's going on and not think that they're trying to cover 2 blocks at once. I wish that wasn't the case. I also wish that you could place signals on the insides of curved rails, because it would just give you more options on how to arrange things and how to make compact systems. It is unfortunate. I hope it changes. I imagine it will one day. I mean, it's definitely a quality of life upgrade. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be the case. But anyway, what we're now going to do is set up the station and things, put in the train and stuff, work out the positioning. We're going to make it so that there's a block away from the junction, of course. And I'm sort of working out the right spot for it. I end up going to retrieve the train and working it out using the train. It was possibly a bad idea because I made the block exactly the size of the train when I could have made it longer. The problem with that being that when the train finally leaves the previous block, when it's arriving in that block, it will be pretty much stopped. If the block was a bit longer than the train, then the train would still be moving at a bit of speed before it was fully in the block and left the block behind it. So compressing it doesn't really help. It does slow things down a bit, but it's not a huge problem. And out here, there probably shouldn't be too much going on. I imagine there'll only be 2 trains here. One that delivers circuits. Well, I guess there'd be 3. One delivering circuits, one delivering the other thing, the plastic. Though maybe it could be all in one train. It entirely depends on how it works. We'll be rearranging the timetables all the time. We're still sort of coming to that sort of thing. But anyway, let's discuss the matter of the name. Now, it is sort of a foregone conclusion that the Advanced Circuit Town will be called something along the lines of Silicon Valley, or Silicon Plains, or Silicon Dunes, or something along those lines. When I was asking for the name of Chipton, the most suggested name was not Chipton, it was Silicon Valley. But I said that it was reserved for the Advanced Circuit Town. So that is probably what I'm going to call it. You can suggest other names. If one comes along that I think is absolutely brilliant and better than like Silicon Valley or a variation thereupon, then I will choose that one. But I don't know. You can also discuss what you think about the choice of options 1 and 3 for the rails, and like any specifics about transitions to stations and junctions about that. I do read all the comments, and I will take them all on board. But anyway, that is enough for today. I shall say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.